You are running. You don't know what from or why. You only know that if you're caught, you are doomed. As the four of you run down yet another alley, you realize that you don't really recognize this town. These alleys and these streets are both foreign to you and deserted. The yellow fog keeps closing in around you with its odor of decay. It promises your demise if you linger too long here. You must move. It is upon you before you can react. It picks up Claudius first, twisting his head around 180 degrees. As if the sound of your companion's neck breaking wasn't gruesome enough, it also sounded as if it was coupled with an unknown voice, a disembodied voice that echoes, "Me." The assailant appears to be some sort of bent and twisted thing, tall and covered in bandages with, in a blink of an eye, it is gone. Then directly behind Cram, the thing sends Cram's head, and only his head, flying through the air. The gore that erupts from what is left of Cram's neck sprays the alley walls. The gore seems to spell out the word. Rake, in defiance of the doom around him, rages and runs towards the twisted and bandaged thing. It cracks a wicked-looking grin in response and lurches forward to meet the charge. With lightning speed, the thing runs through Rake, leaving a heavy mist of meat, blood, and bone in its wake. The thing roars, and as the gore behind it settles to the ground in thick crimson drops, it seems to spell out, "Save." Drawl, the last standing member of the four companions, turns to flee into the mist, but the moment he turns around, the tattered thing is in his face. It picks Drawl up off his feet, and it bends him over backwards, breaking Drawl's back. A single word escapes the twisted thing's mouth. Wake. You awaken in a small stone room. You also appear to be behind bars. You get up off the ground, groggy, and realize you've awakened in a cell. Before you can get your bearings, a muffled cry brings your attention to what's right outside the bars. A man lies, tied to a table. He bleeds from several wounds all over his body. You were so busy trying to make out what was going on with this man on the table, you didn't even notice the woman. She appears to be dressed as a nurse or healer of some kind. She paces around the man, a wicked smile on her lips.
"Where should I cut next?"
says the woman in a cruel tone. She seems to be keeping her hand in the air, always in the tied-up man's line of sight. That's when you finally notice the scalpel she's brandishing. When she approaches the foot of the table where his feet are located, he kicks out, sending her into the bars of the cell. The companions act quickly, grabbing at her and getting a hold of some loose keys in the process. She breaks free and turns her cold gaze onto the companions.
"You need to wait your turn. He's been waiting patiently,"
she says as she moves to the head of the table and jumps up on it.
"So, he comes first."
As she finishes the last word of that sentence, she brings down the scalpel into the man's unprotected face over and over again, turning his face into a bloody pile of unrecognizable meat and skull. As she loses herself in the bloodlust, the party is able to open the cell door. They attempt to take her down and a scuffle ensues. Some of them are cut, not too seriously, mind you. Eventually, Rake tackles her onto the table and holds her firm. He proceeds to headbutt her right in her open, cursing mouth. She spits blood back into his face. He strikes her again. This time, her appearance changes. For a split second, she sorta looked like Rake. During this moment of surprise, she is able to break free of Rake's grapple and flees out of the room. The party pursues. The room she fled into is full of dead and rotting corpses, piled up about 6 to 8 feet high. After checking to see if she was hiding in the corpse pile, the party realizes the only way out is up. And they climb the pile to what appears to be an exit slide for a corpse chute. They climb the chute and come out into a small room. Dark gore stains the ground in this room, all of it in a smear pattern, most likely from the corpses being dragged in this location before being dumped down the chute. More importantly, however, is the crates located in this room, the crates full of the party's missing gear and weapons. After the party collects themselves, they proceed into what appears to be a large hallway or corridor, one end extending far into the distance, consumed by darkness at the very end. The other direction has tables and chairs flipped over to make a makeshift barricade. What looks like guards of some sort are standing on the other side. You attempt to approach them, but are met with drawn steel and aimed crossbows.
"Halt, creature!"
spits a man who appears to be the leader of the group.
"Men, if they take another step closer, you have my permission to fire."
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The men responded. The party explains their situation, but this does little to convince the guards they're humans and not shape-shifting demons, as one guard put it. The guards, not convinced the party isn't monsters, gives little info, but apparently the party has awoken in some kind of asylum. Eventually York, that would be the captain's name, came up with a solution to this impasse that might save some innocent blood and put a hurt on the creatures to boot.
"Prove you're not one of those shape-shifting creatures by killing a few, Then bring their corpses back here as proof. 3 bodies ought to do it. Do that and we'll let you pass.
The party agrees, turns away from the barricades, and proceeds towards the dark end of the long corridor. They eventually come across a room with 2 very strange-looking man-shaped creatures in it arguing over something in a foreign language. No one in the party understood it. The party rushes them and catches them by surprise. The creatures put up little fight when caught flat-footed, and both are cut down easily. The party now must decide what new direction to take. And that is where the adventure is left off. The party is sitting in the room with 2 dead creatures on the ground, and that is what we'll pick up when we start playing again. See you then.